why am I angry? What is the real source of my anger? Is it what this person said? Or is it perhaps something that somebody said a week ago? Am I carrying bitterness and resentment from a few days ago and this person just crossed my path and said something that triggered me? Or is it actually that person? When you do that, you have no idea that the power that you suddenly have in your hand, because now you can do several things. Instead of getting angry, instead of writing an email that you're going to regret and that makes things worse, you now can maybe wait and see if they respond or do something. You have options. You're not just acting and then causing the other person to react. We get in these triggering things, to use your word, where it goes back and forth and back and forth. They say something that makes you angry, you resent it, you say something back, they feel it, and then they say something to you. It goes on and on and on and on and on. You want to get out of that kind of karma. You want to step back and you want to go, why am I afraid? Why am I resentful? What exactly am I envious of? And that's an incredibly powerful moment if you can do that. Because the other thing is, we carry so much emotional drama in our day-to-day lives, and we're not aware of how much this emotional drama is draining us of energy that we need for our work, is draining our creative powers. It's just exhausting us, literally, right? And when you develop the ability to not react immediately and to step back, you suddenly find yourself overwhelmed with a calmness, a patience, a peacefulness, where you're not always reacting to people and your brain filling up with this kind of recurring loop in your mind. Oh, they said this and I said that,
Yeah.
on and on and on. Suddenly your mind is free to think about other things. You're not caught up in all this emotional drama. So what I'm advocating is just that one little tiny step, a half step back, developing the habit. You're not going to be able to do it every time because we're human and we can't help it. If you could do it just once a day, you'll start developing this habit. If you just catch yourself one time during the day feeling a strong emotion, a negative emotion, or even a positive emotion, step back and try to go, where is it coming from? You may not know, you may not figure it out, but at least you won't be reacting in the moment.
Yeah. I think that's why people meditate too, right? So that we can replay that. I know that's something you do every morning.
I do. I do 40 minutes every morning, and it helps incredibly a lot. So I find myself where I know in the past somebody said something that would have gotten under my skin, I would have reacted. I know suddenly I don't care. You develop the habit in meditation of thinking to yourself, it's not about me. It's not personal. They're dealing with their own issues. That's the other point that I try and make in the book. We go around thinking that everything is personal. They said that because they don't like me or they resent me. The truth is, people are in their own world, in their own head. They're usually not even thinking about you at all. And if they say something kind of bitter or mean, it really probably is something that they're carrying with them from their childhood or from a
Yeah.
previous relationship. So, with that kind of calmness that meditation brings, where you think it's not about me, it's them, it's their problem, you just don't understand, you can't begin to understand how liberating that is, where you're not always caught up in this intense drama game that life can throw at you.
Yeah. Um, Another thing I wanted to talk about, because it is great to be introspective and learn that stuff about yourself, but you talk a lot about um, toxic people and how we need to avoid them. Um, you said the ability to see toxic people before you get involved with them is a very critical life skill. That lower part of our nature is taken in by appearances. If they are charming, the social self that they show is deceptive. People don't reveal their flaws, their vulnerabilities, their neuroses to you when you meet them. People have spent their whole lives trying to disguise themselves from people. A very aggressive person, for example, doesn't go announcing it. And then you brought up the example of having gone to Harvard is not nearly as important as people's character. Are they strong? Can they deal with criticism? Can they work with other people? Um, a lot of us, unfortunately, do end up, you know, coming across these kinds of people in life. and befriending them. And if we're really unlucky, we date them. So,
We've all
so,
been through that, believe me,
oh,
myself
yeah,
included.
it's the worst. But of course, no one wants to repeat that. No one wants to go back, um, you know, and repeat a relationship where their partner is shitty and toxic and cruel and, all those other things. But what do we look out for early on? Because, we call it in dating, we call them red flags. But what are they, and how can we tell if someone's a shitty person early on? What are we looking at?
Well, there's two sides to this coin. The first thing that, excuse me, that I would advocate is actually looking at yourself. Because the chapter you're quoting from is a chapter that's about character and about people's compulsive behavior. And what I'm saying in that chapter is that we tend to have patterns in our life that repeat. And oftentimes you'll find in relationships that it won't be just one time that you choose a toxic person. It'll often be several times. You notice that two or three times you've made the wrong choice. And often they're
Yeah.
very similar. You chose a narcissist, you didn't realize it till later, and then you go, God damn it, I'm never dating a narcissist again.
Oh,
And lo and
Robert.
behold, the second time you're dating them again. So, yeah, I'm sorry. What?
I feel personally attacked. You're right.
So, okay. Well, I've been through that myself. So,
Yeah.
some of it comes from you. Like, why am I having this pattern? Why am I attracted to toxic people? And 90% of the time, the answer is in your childhood. It has to do with a relationship to a mother or a father that had that element to them. And you're not aware of how
Right.
your sexual attraction is actually tied in with kind of things that you were missing in your childhood, or things that you got that excited you. Let's say, for instance, you had a narcissistic mother. Let's say a boy has a narcissistic mother who is kind of cold and distant, and you really wish you had a more loving mother, but you'll find yourself secretly attracted to women who replicate the same behavior patterns as that narcissistic mother that you had. Over and over again, you're trying to relive what Freud calls family romance. You're trying to
Mm,
relive your early childhood and see if you can somehow correct it, and you're not conscious of it. So the first step is look at yourself and why you might have these patterns and where they're coming from. But the second thing is, it's the other thing of what we talked about with your emotions is you tend to be drawn in, it's the animal part of our nature to react instead of think. So if someone is all smiling and pleasant and charming and seems to be excited and interested in us, we take that appearance for reality and we don't stop and think, maybe they're after something. Now, I'm not trying to make you paranoid. The toxic people in life may be only, the truly toxic people may only be 5 or 10% of the population. But boy, can they cause you a lot of trouble if you end up having a relationship with them.
oh yeah.
So, so the thing is, you want to be able to identify those types before you get involved with them. And a lot of it is, first of all, you're looking at their patterns of behavior. If someone has a string of like 10 relationships before they've met you, and they keep talking about them, God, that girl I dated, she was just so horrible, I had to break it off. And the second woman, she just drove, on and on and on. They're blaming other people for all the broken relationships. You have to stop and think, what is the pattern in their life? Why am
Ooh.
I going to get caught up in their patterns again? So look at their past if you can, and also look at their childhood. So if they come from a particularly broken home with very bad parenting, it doesn't mean that they're hopeless, and it doesn't mean that with your love and affection you could change them. But a lot of times, if they're truly toxic, you can't change them. They have this pattern, it's deeply set. So look a little bit about their relationship to their mother or their father. The main thing is nonverbal communication. And I have
Oh
a whole
yeah.
chapter in the book on that. So people can say anything with words. They can say, "You're the smartest person in the world. I love you. Your screenplay is wonderful. You're so talented," etc. Right?
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily mean it a lot of times. Because even if we're in an office, it doesn't mean we're liars. But if our boss walks by and we think, God, he's gained some weight or she's gained some weight, we don't say that. We say, God, you look great today, right? So
Yeah.
we're primed as children to not tell people the truth often. So you want to be able, but so words can lie, but body language can't lie. So, for instance, the smile, the human smile, through which we judge so much of people, whether they like us, whether they're happy, what they think about us, a lot of smiles are fake, right? You go, this is a fake smile. It's kind of tight. It's not real, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and a real smile, if you, and I talk about it in the book, is the whole cheekbones move up, the eyes widen, they get like, there's a kind of, you can't control it. You're so delighted. You're so
There's like
happy.
an
The
energy.
smile,
There's like an energy
there's a,
to it.
and you can feel it. You can feel the
Yeah.
energy. The
Yeah.
whole face is animated as opposed to the tight smile. It's just the mouth, the ear, the eyes, the cheekbones, like that, you know. And so many people, you just gave me one.
Yeah.
so many, so many people walk around with that tight smile. So be aware of that. Be aware of, you know, maybe they're nervous around you. Maybe they don't really like you. Maybe, or if you see a genuine smile, then you know that there's a real rapport between you. I've noticed with very narcissistic people, for instance, who are probably the most toxic of all,
Oh,
right? They are the
yeah.
worst relationships because the thing with about a great narcissist, what I call a deep narcissist, is they can
That was one of my
actually be
questions.
they can actually be very charming, right? They learned since childhood how to hide, disguise their deep emptiness inside and to
Yeah.
get attention from other people because they're starved for attention, right? It's called narcissistic feed. They need that narcissistic feed all the time. They need you to love them. And so to get that love, they learn how to be very charming. And that's the danger, right? But with
Right.
a narcissist, when we're talking about the face, for instance, I've noticed a pattern, which is the 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 face, the mouth, as I said before, they seem to be interested and excited about you. They're talking about you, they're listening to you, but the eyes are kind of dead. They're
Oh,
not really
yeah.
engaging with you,
Yeah.
right? They're repeating what you say, they're asking you questions, but the eyes are dead. There's no life in them. It's just as if they're not even looking at a human being, it's if they're looking at an object.
Oh my God.
But the but you don't see them. Yeah.
I'm so
Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
Is it that they don't like, are they completely removed from the spectrum of human emotions? Because of course, I've dated some. I've had friends that I'm sure fell into that category. And you're right, they're very likable to a lot of people because they know how to put on that show. Once it's
Right.
intimate, though, it's over. Like once
It's
you
all
get
about
close to
them.
them, oh, it's the worst. But what I was gonna ask was, um, are they not emotional people? Like what is going on there? What happened to them that they became like that?
Well, I mean, I talk about it in the book. It's often stems from a parenting in which the parent abandoned them. They were never given enough love, or the opposite, they were given too much love. They were smothered, and they're not able to develop as a child enough distance from their parents to develop their own identity and their own sense of self-worth. So they have a big emptiness inside. The irony about the word narcissism is narcissists actually don't love themselves, right? They've never been able to develop a self that is strong and stable. And so they need other people to give them that love that they were missing, right? I'm sorry, I forgot what your question was. What was your question?
Just that I'm sorry,
Oh,
I cut
do
you
they
off.
feel anything? Did they feel anything? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they feel things in that, but it's all for the purpose of getting what they want. So if we talk about empathy, empathy is a powerful thing. Where I'm thinking about, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. So what's your name?
Me?
Your name?
Oh,
Yeah,
Nicole.
Nicole. Sorry, I'm tired. Whatever. So Nicole, empathy is like a really powerful emotion, right? And it means I'm going to get inside Nicole's mind right now. I'm going to understand her world. and I'm going to feel what she's feeling so that I can understand her better for whatever reason, that's important to me. A narcissist can do that. They can try and understand what you're feeling, what's going on, but it's all for the purposes of manipulating you. It's all gathering information so that they can use it against you. They're going to try and understand you so that they can get you to play their games. So oftentimes, psychopathic people can seem to be interested in you. They ask you questions, they ask you about your life. I talk in the book about the great Russian dictator Joseph Stalin, who was actually an incredible narcissist, incredible cold, incredibly murderous. But when you talk to him, he was asking you questions, he was asking about your life, but it was all for the purpose of gathering information that he can now use in manipulating you, in deceiving you, in getting what he or she wants out of you. So they're feeling things, but it's all about themselves. It's all about it's not about you. It's not about what you're feeling or how they can get inside your world. It's about what they need from you. So their feeling is all about what they're missing, what they're lacking, what they're insecure about. And so that, they're not totally dead. It's just everything has to be about them, which is what is so infuriating about a relationship with them. And they can be very tricky because a narcissist is very good at making you feel guilty, as if you were the one that is cold, as if you were the one not giving them what they need, as if you were the one that's narcissistic. They're very
Yeah.
good at turning the tables. So that's why I say it's better. What you need in life is the ability to identify them before you get involved in a relationship.
Okay, so dead in the eyes is the giveaway. The one you've noticed.
Yeah, you know, when they talk about, um, I mean, if you look at their past, you're going to see that kind of pattern as well. But look at how they talk about other people, for instance,
Hmm.
how they talk
Yeah.
about their previous partners. Do you ever get a sense that they ever think of themselves as being wrong, as if they were in the wrong, or are they always blaming other people? Do they have some vulnerability? Can they
Yeah.
admit that they have flaws, that they are wrong? Because a narcissist really can't. It's always the other person. I'm always right. It's called narcissistic rage. If
Yeah.
you trigger them and do something, they get incredibly angry. So you want to see whether they're capable of talking about other people, their boss, their previous partners, their colleagues, their friends, in a way that displays some human warmth as if they truly care about them. Because when they talk about their relationships or the people they know, it tends to all be reflected through themselves, through their own drama, through their own needs and desires. Now, I want to make one thing clear though.
Yeah.
As I say in the book, we are all narcissists. It is human nature for all of us to be self-absorbed to some degree or other, right? We all have it, and I have it, and you have it, Nicole. And when in writing that chapter, I had to realize, yeah, Robert, you have quite a few narcissistic traits yourself.
Yeah.
But most of us, we're not what I call a deep narcissist. We can sink into ourselves and feel bad and feel sorry for ourselves and get more and more self-absorbed, but we're able to rise out of it often in life and care about other people and think about other people. And then when things go bad, we tend to sink back into ourselves. But we're going up and down. We can tend to rise ourselves up. Deep narcissists can't. They're always down here. They're always thinking about themselves and about what they need and about what you're not giving them. They can never rise high enough to get outside of themselves and to think about what you need or think about what's going on in your life.
Yeah. No, I remember you made that distinction between, I think it was functional narcissists and deep narcissists, and that we're all functional narcissists. Um, I like how you provide a lot of historical examples in your books. One thing I like that you said in an interview, you quoted Bismarck, who said, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others." I'm sure you can think of a million examples, but is there any story that stands out to you that you've written about that you constantly go back to and think like, "Wow, there's so many lessons in that."
Well, It's weird because the very first book I ever wrote, The 48 Laws of Power, which you read when you were 16, um, came out in 1998. And the very first chapter is called Never Outshine the Master.
Yeah,
And
I
the
remember.
very first story in that is a story about King Louis XIV of France and his finance minister. And the reason I bring that up is that story meant a lot to me. I had heard it years earlier, in the 1980s when I was in France, and I always remembered it. And I have myself violated that law on several occasions and paid a terrible price for it. And what that story is basically is Louis XIV is the most powerful person in France. He's a young king, everybody adores him. And his finance minister, a man named Nicolas Fouquet, wants to ingratiate himself with the king and maybe get appointed as his prime minister, the second most powerful position in France. So what does he do? He decides to hold this lavish party in honor of Louis XIV at his chateau. And I visited this guy's chateau in France. It's unbelievably spectacular. Not
Yeah.
Versailles, it's called Vaux-le-Vicomte. Anyway, he gives the most amazing party in Louis's honor with fireworks, with colored water and fountains, with theater troops. Moliere performs there. It's amazing. And during this party, which he thinks is going fabulously well, everyone's coming up to him and going, Monsieur Fouquet, this is the greatest party I've ever been to. Thank you. This is so wonderful. And he thinks, wow, this has been so successful. The king is going to love me, and tomorrow I will get what I want. And lo and behold, he wakes up the next day and he's arrested and he's put in prison for the rest of his life. And what he didn't realize is that he was trying so hard to please the king and show him how much he loved him that he was making the king feel insecure, as if Fouquet was so wonderful, as if everybody liked Fouquet more than Louis XIV, right? And so he was making the king feel insecure. Maybe I'm not as popular. Maybe people like him more than me. And so he didn't admit that to himself. Instead, he created some kind of trumped up charges that Fouquet was stealing money and he threw him in prison. And the law is never outshine the master. Don't try so hard to please the master, to show how great you are, that you make the person above you feel insecure because you'll get fired. That happened to me many, many times in my work career before writing books. I was a researcher on a television show, and my research was so good. I thought, wow, I'm the best person here. And
You
after
are
four
though.
months, well, I was a really good researcher. After 4 months, I was fired. I go, what the hell? Why am I fired? I'm
Yeah.
doing the best work here than anybody. It was because the person above me was thinking like I was after her job, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if you look at it's in everywhere you look, you see that story. Trump now is
I was
really
just gonna.
envious and upset about Anthony Fauci because he thinks he's more popular than he is, and he'll maybe try and fire him because of that. So the thing you have to understand is the people above you in life, the people who are more powerful, have a position higher than yours. They have an ego. You go through life thinking that they're powerful, that you can do whatever you want. They're not insecure. But people in positions of power are even more insecure than others. They don't really know whether their job is going to last. They don't know if people really like them, etc. So you have to be very careful about your behavior and not inadvertently do something or say something that will trigger their envy or their insecurities. I don't know, that law, which was the first one, has affected me personally. I'm very aware of it. And you don't know how many stories I read about or people come to me with consulting that it's all about never outshine the master.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that one for sure. Um, but speaking of powerful people, people in positions of power, I know you're a consultant to many powerful people in a lot of enterprises, athletes, hip hop artists, politicians, business people, who come to you with their own problems. And, we look at these people and we think that's, we want to be them. And they probably don't have so many problems. But even they do, and they come to you for advice at that caliber. Um, what kinds of stuff are they dealing with?
Well, most of the time, these people are really good at their job. Like if they're an athlete, they're great. They're in the NBA, they're one of the best players in the world. Or they're a coach, they reached a pinnacle. Or they're an actor who's successful in Hollywood. So in their particular job, they're successful, they're good, they're technically brilliant at what they do, but they have people problems. They don't understand, if they're an NBA player, they don't understand management and how they might be traded tomorrow, even though they thought that everyone loved them. They don't
Yeah.
understand why they're not getting work after they won an Oscar or something like that. They have people problems. They're not aware of what they're doing that is actually causing people to be alienated from them or that they're inadvertently offending them. They have political problems. They hire someone. This is a scenario that happens over and over and over again. And I talk about it in the laws of human nature. Somebody hired a business partner, a 50-50 deal to help them run the business or whatever. And then lo and behold, that person, several months later, is actually being very aggressive and is slowly taking over the company and is accumulating more and more, that'll go away, sorry, is
Don't worry.
accumulating more and more power. Um, and then they like take over the company and push them out, right? They hired the person that they thought was charming, that was great, that was really going to help them, and it ended up this person was extremely ambitious, extremely manipulative, and was only trying to find a way where they could get inside the company and take it over from them. And so, what did I do wrong? How do I get rid of this person, kind of thing. And I'm saying, well, it's great, I'll help you get rid of them. But the thing you got to realize is it's your mistake. They gave you signs of this and you weren't paying attention. And what I talk a lot about to people in the consulting and in my book is what you want to look at the people that you involve yourself with, either in an intimate level or in work or in business partners, is not their charm, is not how pleasant they are, how they flatter you, their glittering resume, whether they went to Harvard, etc. What you want to look at is their character. Are they a strong person? Can they take criticism? Do they know how to work with other people? Can they admit their own mistakes? Can they take responsibility? Can they work harder than others and not get everyone else to do the work for them? These are signs of a strong inner a strength from within. And that kind of person is much better even though they may not be as good looking or as charming or as great with words, than the other person who's outwardly so charming, because they're often disguising a very manipulative, deceptive character. So a lot of the people that come to me have made terrible mistakes in dealing with people. They got into the wrong relationship. They said something that turned them off. They're not getting the funding for their project because they don't know how to appeal to people in a deep level and persuade them, which is another chapter in the laws of human nature. So it's not, they don't come to me with, oh, I need to make more money. What's wrong with what's the stock market doing today? They don't come to me about how can I shoot better free throw percentage, or how can I become a better actor? They come to me because people are driving them insane. People are driving them nuts with their weird behavior. They don't understand it, and I'm trying to help them understand what's really going on.
Yeah. Um, I think a lot of people have a problem where, you know, you said it. You don't really realize what it is attracts you to it is that attracts you to someone, but they may not be the best for you. Is it possible to change what you're attracted to so that you go, you're able to go with someone who maybe isn't as charming, isn't as good looking, but they're a good person? I think that's something a lot of people struggle with.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it comes to like sexual attraction, there's a lot that we can't control, right? So oftentimes that sweeter, nicer person who maybe isn't as charismatic or as good looking, we're not physically attracted to them. And what are you going to do in that situation? Well, maybe you can learn to value their qualities, and then you'll become attracted to them if you give yourself some time. But a lot of that is something that we can't really control. But the thing is, even in a relationship, if you want a long-term relationship, for instance, you have to try and get beyond your own excitement and your own attraction and see what lies behind their mask and see whether there's somebody that you could spend 5, 6, 10 years with or whatever. Imagine, can you have a conversation with this person in 10 years? You know, will there still be things that you haven't discovered about them? Are there still mysteries about them? Are they a complicated enough person that after 5 or 6 years, that you're still going to be discovering things about them and the conversation? Well, oftentimes, if you just think like that, then you'll realize this is not a relationship for me because I can't imagine having to spend that much time talking to this person because our conversations aren't that interesting. But you want to look for other qualities besides just the sexual physical component,
Yeah.
right? You want to see how deeply can a person listen to you. Probably the single best quality in a relationship is that the other person can get outside of themselves and you can feel, and it's not something that's verbal, it's something you feel, that
Yeah.
they are trying to connect with you in a way that has nothing to do with their ego. They're trying to understand who you are and get inside your spirit. And you can see this in like the presents they give you. I talk in several of my books about how gifts are a language and they tell you something about that person. So if somebody gives you a cliched gift that's expensive, like a diamond necklace or a beautiful, nobody gets fur coats anymore, but something like that, right? Okay, that show that they have money, but it doesn't show a deep amount of thought, right? Or they give you a cliched gift like roses for Valentine's Day or whatever like that. No thought in it, you know? But if somebody is able to actually think about your world and surprise you with a gift, like they give you something that goes, wow, I hadn't thought of that, but that is something I really want. That's brilliant. It's like it shows that they got inside of your world, inside of the books that you read, the music that you listen to, the movies that you like. They anticipated your desires and they thought of something and they got you a gift. That you should marry that person tomorrow. That shows
Wow.
you that they're able to like really deeply get outside of themselves and enter your world, right? That's an incredibly powerful quality that you want in the people that you're dating. I'm sorry, I forgot what we were talking
No, no, that
about.
that
What was
addresses
the
it.
original question? Oh,
Um,
so yeah, but the thing is, sometimes you got to question why you're excited about people, you know? So, as I said, it could be that that person that seems so charming is actually a reflection of something that you were missing from your childhood. So think about your own parents, what the good side and the things that they're lacking, and the qualities that maybe you don't want to have in a partner that maybe your father or your mother had. And you're going to find yourself attracted to people who are going to be giving you some of the negative qualities that your parents gave you, even though that seems self-destructive. A lot of what we do is self-destructive. That's why we end up dating the wrong person. So question why you're excited by that person. Just don't instantly assume that you two have some kind of magic between you because it could be deceptive.
yeah, well, that's really helpful to I'm sure a lot of people, but um, to me personally, and I really like it's very important, I think, for people in a relationship to get outside their own narrative and get into the other person's. Like, if someone
Right.
got me a book by my favorite author that they overheard me, mention,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a really
Exactly.
nice thing. So, okay, those are helpful questions. I'm definitely going to be using them. I want to talk about social media for a second because I know it affects so many of us. I know it causes mental health issues. It causes a lot of emotions and feelings that we otherwise were not experiencing at such a rapid pace. For example, politically we're triggered, but then on a personal level, we're scrolling through our feeds and everyone's on a vacation and everyone's in the perfect relationship and everyone has like the coolest best friend who got them the best cake on their birthday, and oh my God, why aren't my friends like that? What can we do to navigate um, social media in a way that's healthier?
Well, social media is just a tool. It's not good or bad. Originally, when it first came out in the early 2000s, when we were first getting really excited about it, things like Facebook or MySpace, way back when,
Yeah.
the precursors, it seemed like an amazing thing where we were able to get in contact with all these people and share our interests. So at first it seemed like a utopia, and now it seems kind of like hell, but it's neither. It's just what it is. But human nature kind of takes it over. And so the thing is, you want to be able to distance yourself from social media. You want to be able to develop the habit to turn it off and not feel bored and not feel insecure. And believe it or not, this moment that we're going through, we're at least here in California. I don't know where you're located, Nicole, but
Los
here we're
Angeles.
definitely, oh, you're in Los Angeles, so we're definitely in quarantine here. It's still in
Yeah.
lockdown. You have a lot of time on your own, unfortunately. And this is the time where you want to develop this habit where instead of immediately reaching for your Instagram account or for Facebook or for Twitter, you step back and you give yourself an hour where you don't think about it, where you read a book, where you develop, because what it is you get hooked, you get addicted. And people who create these platforms, particularly Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, they know how to addict you. They know all the little triggers, all the little marketing gimmicks, what colors, what little beeps. You have no idea the level of sophistication they are using to manipulate you and get you to check your feed 5 or 6 or 12 times a day. Meanwhile, they're making in millions and billions of dollars with advertising because of that. So
Yeah.
you're being tricked into this addiction, and you don't ever want to be addicted in life. You want to be able to use Instagram as something pleasurable, as something fun that you choose twice a day, for instance, to check it out and see what other people are doing and get kind of excited about it. Okay. So you need to be able to distance yourself. And if you're in now and you're quarantined, the best way to do that is to read books. Now, I'm not saying that selfishly because I'm a writer and I'm wanting you to go out and
Yeah.
read, but instead of reading about people's deceptive facades that they present on social media, where everything they do is wonderful, where they're not really revealing their flaws and their depressing moments. Read a book by a great author, a great piece of fiction or whatever, in which they're teaching you something about life. You're not just distracting yourself from your own problems or hearing about what other people are doing. You're reading about human nature, you're reading about psychology, you're reading about history. So you're filling your mind up with useful thoughts and ideas and knowledge as opposed to kind of meaningless trivia. Get in that habit right now during the coronavirus, during the pandemic. Read more books. Or if you want to online, start reading interesting articles and things like that. It doesn't have to be a book. Okay. Um, okay. So the other thing about social media is it appeals to the most primitive parts of our nature. So it seems so sophisticated, like, oh my God, we're the 21st century. Look how sophisticated we are. We have all these programs. I'm sitting here talking to Nicole face to face like this on my phone. This is insane, right? But
Yeah.
actually, they're appealing to the most primitive parts of our nature, and you have to be aware of that. So, what is one of the most primitive emotions that we humans feel? Believe it or not, it is envy. I have a chapter in my book about envy, and the
Yeah.
strange thing about envy is it has been shown that primates, chimpanzees, are prone to feeling envy. It has been demonstrated that our ancestors, our hunter-gatherer ancestors, before the invention of language, felt intense amounts of envy and developed all of these social practices to help thwart any kind of envy within the tribe, such as if you were given a gift by someone, you immediately shared it with everyone in the tribe so no one would feel resentful or envious towards you because they knew people would get murdered out of envy. And where does envy come from? It comes from our compulsive need to constantly compare ourselves to other people. if you step back for a moment and look at yourself in your day-to-day life, you're constantly thinking about other people and comparing yourself. Is my partner as interesting as theirs? Am I making as much money? Are my vacations as exciting? Are my clothes, are they as good as that person? Am I as smart? On and on and on. Our brains are constantly in a comparison mode, right? And so in the past, all you knew about were your friends, your small circle of people, maybe 10 or 12 people, and you might have heard of an uncle or a cousin or a friend who got a great job, and then you'd feel kind of envious and it would hurt you. Now, the whole world, billions of people, you're knowing, suddenly hearing about their inner lives, their vacations, their wonderful partners, the great jobs they got, all the amazing things that they're seeing and doing, right? So instead of just 12 people that might trigger a little bit of envy, you're feeling envy 20 times a day. It's being triggered constantly, unconsciously, as you're continually comparing yourself to what other people have. And social media feeds that. And I'm trying to show you, I show you in my book how you can avoid that envy moment and realize that that's what's happening to you. And the main thing to do, and I really recommend reading that chapter because I'm not going to go through all the ideas, but the
Right.
main thing to do is to tell yourself their life is not nearly as wonderful as you think it is. They're not showing you their depressing moments. They're not showing you the arguments that they had with their spouse or their partner or their lover or whatever. They're not showing you the horrible, boring moments of their job and the shitty boss that they have. They're editing it so you're only seeing the wonderful, glowing, amazing things. So realize that their life is not nearly as good as you think it is, and maybe that will help blunt some envy. The other chapter I talk about is conformity and virality and how we're so deeply influenced by the emotions and sensations of the people around us. And I'm not going to go into depth about this, but basically, you have to understand that social media is designed to have all of these viral effects. So you're sitting there, chatting with your friends who all have the same kind of political ideas in the world, and you're just reinforcing the same kinds of emotions and anger towards other people who you classify as the enemy or whatever. And so social media is very good at creating that tribal feeling. It's us versus them. They're evil. They're not good. We're good. We're better. We're superior.
Yeah.
So the book is about making you aware of how social media is actually manipulating you. And if you can get to that point where you realize it, then suddenly it can be a tool for what it should be, which is a great form of human communication.
Right. I really like that. And I think what you were talking about, the like, oh, we're better than them, that sort of breeds the social justice warrior that comes out and you see
Sure.
all these fights, which we don't need to get into. Um, I know you suffered a stroke not too long ago, which you talk about in some of your um, in some of your interviews. What did you learn from that? Because I know, when we go through times like that, we learn from it.
Well, I learned that I'm not dead. Um, I came very, very close to dying. My girlfriend was in the car I was driving, and she forced me to pull over the car. She called 911 right away, and we were fortunately located right next to a hospital, near a hospital. If I had been alone, which I frequently am driving, or if I had been swimming or hiking or in my office, I would not be talking to you, Nicole, right now. That stroke would have either killed me or would have given me massive brain damage. So I'm I'm just lucky to be here right now. But it also totally destroyed the life that I was leading in that I loved exercise. I loved swimming, hiking, bicycling, and suddenly the left side of my body, I could barely lift my left leg for walking. My left arm is very weak. My fingers, I can't type or hold things. It was traumatic on that level. So I've had to learn, I had to overcome a lot of frustration about myself. I'm somebody who's used to, through persistence, overcoming anything. And this is the kind of thing that no amount of persistence will help you. You have to be patient. So if you're used to, so it's going to take me 3 months to be able to open my hand like this, right? Because in the beginning it was just like that. All
Wow.
right. I have to accept that, right? And I'm still not walking. I still can't take a hike. So I have to accept a lot of things that I'm not normally accepting. And I have to be extremely patient. You have no idea what patience means until it takes you 15 minutes to tie your shoes and 15 minutes to button a shirt. And you have to not stick with, damn it, damn it, damn it. You have to calm down and tell yourself, it's going to get better, it's getting better. So I've learned a lot about my own weaknesses, about my impatience, about my frustrations, about the things that are holding me back, right? And I've also learned to really appreciate the fact that I am alive. So, I have a special bicycle that I'm able to use because I love exercising, but it's kind of it's kind of like a kid's bike. It's a tricycle. You're sitting down and it's very slow. And I'm seeing people whip, 80-year-old grandmothers are whipping by me, and I'm seeing how much fun they're having on their bicycle. And
Oh,
God damn it, then I have to tell myself, Robert, you are so lucky that you're even able to move your legs and have a bicycle. You're out in nature, you're exercising, you're getting that aerobic, workout that you need. Just be grateful for what you have. Because a lot of people with a stroke, you could be paralyzed the rest of your life. And I'm going to have a full recovery. It's just going to take 4 years probably for me.
oh my
So
God.
it's patience on a whole other level. But I also have a chapter in my book about coming to terms with death and mortality. And the ironic thing was, I finished that chapter in May of 2018. And in August of 2018, I had my stroke. So everything I wrote about in death, I had to relive personally in my life. And it's true what I wrote about. Coming to terms with your mortality and your death actually makes you feel much happier, gives you a release from that fear. Excuse me. And it makes you appreciate everything around you. So I have to sit here every day that I'm looking outside my windows or meditating. I have to go, man, it you could very easily, you may not be here. Other people may be going on with their lives and you wouldn't be here to enjoy it. So it's really taught me, it's been a blessing in many ways.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like, I mean, the lessons you take from it and the gratitude you feel, it's so important for other people to hear. I know just from running this page how much people suffer in their daily lives and what they go through. I think your camera flipped over. I think
Oh,
you have to. It's okay.
sorry.
So I know people suffer in so many ways, whether it's
Right.
physically or mentally or whatever. But hearing stuff like that, for me too, it's really uplifting because if you go through something like that and you're able to have gratitude and just look outside or appreciate the fact that you even have a special bike for yourself,
I
you
know.
know, yeah. So things like that I think are really important. Um, I also,
Also understand that there are people who have it worse than you, right? So there are a lot of people right now with the pandemic who've lost loved ones or who are in the hospital. And it's like the worst, if you read about what it's like and you have severe coronavirus, it's really a nightmare. So there are always people who have it worse than you, and it's important to think about that.
yeah, no, that's really important. We should do that more than we compare ourselves on social media for sure.
Right.
Um, I wanted to say thank you for coming on and doing this.
My
I
pleasure.
also want to thank Jackson who helped set this up. He's really amazing and he
Yes.
helped me a lot with like, the questions and setting everything up. So
Oh
that was
yeah.
really
Shout out to Jackson. He's probably
shout
watching
out to Jackson. Um, yeah, he's really cool. He's really cool. And I was so excited to meet you. I'm like, oh, what's he like in person? Blah blah blah. And he like
this.
said the best things.
Oh
Um,
really?
yeah, best
All
things.
lies. I'm kidding.
But anyway, thank you so much for doing this with us. I'm sure this
My
conversation
pleasure, Nicole.
will help a lot of people. I'm gonna save it and upload it so people can rewatch it.
Okay, very good. Well,
All right,
thank you
thanks
so much for
again.
having me. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. All right,
All right.
bye, Robert.
Bye bye.